Hi, this is Amrita Sukumar, and I'm bringing to you this podcast called Unsettling. Look around you. Everyone is trying to create their own story. Make a tiny change in someone's life by just following their passion and in turn, inspiring the others to follow suit. This podcast brings to you stories of people who have defied the definition of settled set by the society and have created their own. They have found happiness in their version of settled. What is yours?
With everything online, I like the new dressing style that we have adopted, that is semi-formal, with the top half that is formal and the bottom half that is pajamas. I too am dressed in the same attire. And so to talk about the trends, new and old, I have with me a stylist who has been working in the industry for the past 9 years and has styled numerous celebrities. She has set a bar for elegant, bold, yet relatable styling that many of us look up to. And she has recently started a venture called Draping Dreams that caters to designing a wedding wardrobe for the entire family, including your friends. So to know more about her, let me welcome today's guest, Shrija Rajgopal. Hi, Shrija. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you? Thank you for having me.
I'm good. Thank you for coming on the podcast. So can you tell about your venture, Draping Dreams? I heard it is something new and I'm really excited to know more about it.
Yes, I'm very excited about it. Actually, it's a wedding styling company. We basically help brides and grooms and family of the bride and groom, or just literally anybody who wants to attend a wedding, whether you're a friend or an attendee. We help you dress for the wedding or your wedding. We basically cater to everyone across India and the Middle East as of now. And it's basically just sort of looking after your wedding wardrobe, So if you're a bride to be or groom to be, we look after everything from your trousseau shopping to your wedding look, and it's everything covered from head to toe. We help you personalize things, customize your look, help you with appointments, help you with deciding, what's trending, what is not, what are you supposed to be doing as per your silhouette, etc. So there's a lot of, stuff that goes into planning your wedding wardrobe. And I've realized that when I was helping with my friends and family, that it's very difficult to kind of do all of that yourself. And I was like, I should get into this because I feel like there's a lot of people that could take a lot of help with this, So I literally started off like just doing it for my friends and family as a fun project. And then that's when I realized that, wow, okay, this is actually a proper void, in the wedding industry. So yeah, I've started this and I'm hoping it picks up. And I'm really excited actually because I've been actually doing this for 2 years. And I've officially started it now. So there's like a little more pressure on the whole thing. But yeah, really excited.
I think it'll go fine. I mean, I remember my brother's wedding and we had to go with Bhabhi to all these stores in Kerala to find out the perfect sari. So, and they used to drape it, show, and then we had to literally find things that are matching, contrasting, understanding colors, which is quite difficult for a layman. So
it's quite a nightmare if you're firstly not interested in it. Secondly, if you don't know too much about it, So that's why it kind of helps to have somebody who knows that bit to take care of it for you.
Yeah. So we have DPs for 200 years because, we're dressed well, right?
Yes. Yeah. So yeah, that's what Draping Dreams is all about. And, I'm hoping people warm up to the idea because as of now in India, it's not really picked up. I don't know why actually, because India is so big on weddings and just, fashion in general. So I just felt like maybe now is the time to kind of tap into it and see how it works. And even if it doesn't work, I'm going to still do it anyway for my friends and family. So I'm just like, okay, let's wing it and see how it goes.
No, I think it'll go well. People are going to warm up to the idea. It's actually very interesting. I've seen a lot of looks that you have created, like on the highlights, you still have it. So I've seen all them.
Yeah.
And you also keep dressing in beautiful clothes whenever you go to weddings. So that's an inspiration.
Yeah, because I love Indian wear and I feel like there's so much you can do with it.
That's true. And you look pretty in it as well.
Thank you.
So, diving right in, can you tell the listeners about your journey? It's been 9 years. So how did you come so far? How did you land your first gig?
So I am actually a regular Bombay girl who grew up in Bombay, a little bit in the Middle East. I was studying in Bahrain for about 10 to 12 years. And then when I moved back, I was a clueless child, stuck in Bombay, where there are so many talented people around you and you kind of feel like lost in the middle of all those people. And I was like, I didn't have any ambition. I was just going with the flow. I was a below average student. I hated studying. So I didn't have a plan as such. I didn't know what I'm going to do. And my parents were actually quite stressed about it, saying that what is this girl going to manage to do in life, and we hope she does something. I was literally one of those. And when I hit college, I just did mass media because it was the easiest course, I thought, because I assumed that, okay, you don't have to study much, so let's do it. And I did that. And then I was just doing a fashion PR internship because at the time I thought that is probably the most fun job to have after doing a mass media course. So I did that. And during the course of the job, I got introduced to styling as a profession. And that really excited me because I was like, you know what, I don't want to just do fashion PR because that's more like the back end work. And that was kind of boring because it's 9 to 5. So I wanted to do something that's more closer to fashion, and styling was something that excited me. And at the time, I assisted a stylist who I really looked up to, and I worked with her. And then I landed my first gig, in 2 months after that. And I just assumed that, okay, I think I can do this by myself. And I started off, but I think I should have interned and assisted for longer. That's one thing I'd like to change. But nevertheless, I kind of learned stuff on the way. And yeah, that's how it happened. And it's been great so far, touch wood. I think I got my first job when it was 2012. Okay. So yeah, it's been a long, long way.
Oh my God. So when you said it was 9 years, I thought that styling is something very new because honestly, all we know about styling is from Instagram. You see Instagram, you just know that, oh, this person has styled this cloth, and that's all you know. Yeah. But when you said 9 years, I realized, oh, this has been around for a very long time. Only thing is people are very unaware of it. And it is still.
Yeah, I think it actually really boomed when Instagram started, because then it was all about like imagery and photos and videos and everything. So that's when people did, like get some awareness about it. Even I didn't know till I actually heard about it, which was a lot later after it actually existed.
Do you think, you should take a course for styling, or do you think if you have a natural eye for it, that also works?
I mean, doing a course really helps. I'm not going to deny it, but it's not like you have to do a course and that's the only way to get into styling, because I didn't really do a course. I just did short courses, which I don't consider to be like a very informative course. They're just fun courses that, teach you a little bit about styling and just the fashion business in general. But of course, if you can afford to and you have the time and you're willing to, go abroad and educate yourself, or even India, actually, you should. It's always like an added advantage for you. But there are a lot of stylists I know that have not gone to fashion school per se, and they're doing an incredible job. So I just feel like what you learn on the job is nothing like what you learn in school or in a university. So that you can't really compare that, and even if you go and do a 1-year course and you come back, there's still going to be a lot that you learn while you're doing a project that nobody teaches you, stuff like discipline and time management and all of that. So yeah, that's something that you don't learn in school, and that's a very crucial part of the job. So I didn't really do much in terms of studying fashion. It all happened while doing my job, and kind of while each project is a different one from each other, so you kind of learn a new thing every day.
But are there any fashion styling schools in India, or it's just abroad?
Yeah, so there are, and in fact there are a lot of them that's recently kind of started, a year or two ago. But of course, NIFT is there. You have Pearl Academy. There's lots, and of course, I would still say that going abroad and studying is a lot more beneficial, only because the kind of networking you can do there, meet people, collaborate with them. I think it's a lot easier to do that there than here, but nevertheless, it's picking up in India, So, I mean, to each their own. If you can afford to go abroad and study, then why not, Just the environment there is just amazing. Like if you go to London or New York or Paris, these are like the fashion capitals, So if you can study there, there's really
okay. But are you taking any courses? Can people learn from experience with you?
I'm not taking courses, but of course we always have interns and assistants and all of that working, So whenever we have a lot of projects to work on together, we always put up something on Instagram about hey, we're looking to hire an intern or an assistant. So stuff like that we do, not courses. Okay. That's way too early. But I know that there are a lot of stylists who take courses at the fashion schools in India. in Bombay, in fact. So yeah, I do feel like there's a lot out there compared to like say 10 years ago. Now there's a lot more importance that's been given to styling. So there are courses, there's stuff that you can learn online. And I honestly feel like, just watching YouTube videos, you can learn so much about anything, not just like styling, but anything about fashion. It's very, very informative. So in case people can't afford to go to school, you always have the internet.
So I'll keep an eye out for your job for hire posters, because I might apply, maybe.
Yeah, please. Yes.
Absolutely zero skills as a stylist, but okay.
That's okay. I was literally the same when I started. I was just like, I don't know anything, but I like it.
Okay,
so I just figure.
Done. I'll keep my eye out. So what are the skills that a stylist must have? What do you think, according to you?
You have to be firstly very hardworking, very patient. Okay. I don't know if these are skills or just traits you're supposed to have within you. You need to be very informative about fashion in general. You need to be excellent at time management and just multitasking, because our job doesn't end at just dressing up somebody and going home. There's a lot that happens around that. There's a lot. You're managing people, you're managing time, you're managing clothes, you're managing expensive stuff like jewelry and diamonds and all of that. So there's a lot of responsibility on one stylist for a lot of things to kind of, come into shape. So these are the things I was talking about earlier that you don't learn in school. So I feel like you have to be excellent at time management and managing people, unfortunate situations that might happen at shoots, wardrobe malfunctions, coming up with solutions. So you have to in general be very aware and alert about what you do in situations like that. Be extremely positive, because if there is a mishap at a shoot or at an event, you can't just be like negative and give up and be like, I don't know what to do, because you are expected to come up with a solution if there's something that's gone wrong from your end. So things like that are very, very, very important, because if you're not going to be able to kind of act upon the situation, then, I don't think they'll have you again. And this industry is a little, kind of difficult in that sense. So you have to give it your 100% every time, so that people don't remember you for the wrong reasons,
Okay. I mean,
I've learned the hard way. I'm not going to deny. So I've been in situations like that where you've had to it's like make or break. So you decide what you want to do.
Oh, now I'm getting the gist of it. Because when you said the jewelry and everything that you have to take care of, now I realize that, so you need a proper setup for the entire thing, right? It's not very easy.
Yeah, which is why we kind of have like a team or assistants or interns, right? Because if you're single-handedly going to manage all of that and look after your actual job, your finances and your billing and your invoice, all of that together, it gets crazy. So that's why you have a team to kind of look after all of that. And it's crazy most times.
Yes, it definitely looks fun, but then when you describe it, it sounds crazy. I'm rethinking the hiring part.
Yeah, please think it through.
Okay. So, what are the factors that you have to keep in mind before styling somebody? Are there a lot of factors, little factors? What are them?
I mean, not too many, but yeah, like I would tell you the top 3 things I would, think of before I'm styling somebody. First and foremost, like, what am I styling them for? Is it an editorial shoot? Is it an event? Is it a red carpet event? Is it an award show? There's so many things that happen and that people get styled for today. So first you have to keep in mind what they're attending and why you're styling them for that. And, to make sure that you're dressing them appropriately and not like over the top or out of, sync. Number 2 would be understanding their body type, because I feel like that's everything. If you get that wrong, then your styling is going to be off. Everything just works, the wrong way. And third would be understanding their personality and what their vibe is like in general, because, every actor is different from another. Some of them, have, the body to pull off anything. Some of them are very talented, but like not so, well-versed with their fashion sense. So you kind of have to understand what the person's vibe is like, what would look good on them. That's completely on you. And that's why they trust you to kind of dress them up to go to such big events, where they're always being packed and all of that. So you have to kind of be, very well aware of these 3 things, what's their personality, what's their body type, and what event they're going for. I think if you get these 3 right for the first event that you do with them, then I think then you kind of learn with the flow, you know. So these are the three things I would essentially look at if I'm styling somebody new for the first time.
Body type is so important. I understood that very late because we try to fit into clothes that are very small for us because we have a particular body shape in our head. Then like I think
I think that's changing with time, and I'm glad, you know, because people are more aware, and there's just more information about, you know, body positivity out there. So, and I have styled people literally in all shapes and sizes. So for me, it's like I have to know that really well, otherwise I will not be able to do that. You know, it's part of my job. So, and I've worked with some amazing people who are thankfully, you know, very open-minded about not always being like skinny and all of that, which is great because I get to style all kinds of people, which I think I'm fortunate enough to, and also like lucky to work with people who don't think like that, you know, and are very open and very happy with how they look. You know, they don't have a set notion of looking a certain way and dressing a certain way.
So I just had this question. Is fashion design and fashion styling, the styling part, are they related to each other or are they very different?
They are very different, but they also kind of work in sync, you know. So a designer, of course, makes the outfit. They design the outfit. There, you know, there's an inspiration behind what they make, why they make that, why that fabric is chosen. And what a stylist does is use that design and just does what they can do with that, you know. So for example, if you see a beautiful outfit out there, it's my job to style it in a certain way. And what a designer has done, it has literally given life to that outfit. And we kind of use it the way we want to. So of course, it's two very different avenues of fashion. Of course, a designer's job is like, I think, incredible, because imagine kind of reinventing yourself every time, making something new each time and having inspiration for that, you know. So I think it's wonderful how they're so different, but how they also kind of come together so amazingly well. And it's like we can't do without each other, because we can't style without, you know, designer pieces. And they kind of need a stylist to kind of put things together, because that's what I mean. Like fashion is it's such a vast industry. Like you should know a little bit about everything. Even if you're a stylist, you need to know a little bit about designing and vice versa, so that you can work together. Even if you don't have a team tomorrow, you should be able to manage it yourself. So yeah, it's like they come hand in hand.
Now, I just had this question because when you spoke about body type, this one point came into my head, you know, because when you're styling somebody, it's not necessary that the clothes exactly fit the person. It might be a little loose or it might be a little tight. So then what do you do in that case? That was
in that case, we alter if we can afford to. So what happens is, in India, like now people are warming up to, you know, making bigger sizes and not just doing model sizes and sample sizes, which is great. So yeah, I mean, if something doesn't fit, a designer does help us, you know, make it to the size we want to, or we just have to alter it, or we just look for another piece. So things like that, like they really help us figure out last minute fitting issues, you know, if something's not fitting, something's too tight or too loose. So we always have their back, you know, for stuff like that.
Thank you for clearing this up. So well, the next question is that are there any things that you learned from your experience, and what are they, and how did they change you? Any mishaps, any things that you know?
Yeah, lots. I mean, goof ups have been plenty. I'm not going to lie. I'll give you one example. I was on my first biggest brand campaign shoot. It was like for a TVC and print shoot for a brand. And I was styling the lead actor, who was endorsing the brand. And I was supposed to apparently carry hair accessories that came under the stylist's sort of, you know, kit. Like we have, basically when they were giving out a brief, they apparently assumed that, you know, I would carry hair accessories. And I assumed it's the hairstylist's job to do that, because it's a hair band, you know. And I didn't carry it. And I remember that the entire stress of that shoot was on that missing hairband, which I was going to get. And the entire shoot was on stall because of that. And I was so worried. And I was like, oh my God, this is probably my last job, you know, in styling for sure, because I goofed up so bad. But somehow we worked around it. We came up with a solution. We ran to Bandra and got one last minute. But you know, in that minute, I kind of felt like I really self-doubted, and I was just like, oh my God, how could I make this mistake? But I really was so innocent about it. I was just like, listen, I didn't know it comes under the stylist's job to get a hair accessory. But you know, things like that, you learn with mistakes only. Like how else are you going to grow? So Yeah, that's something that I can remember because I would never forget that incident and how I was so scared in that
Right.
situation. Like I was literally like praying that, oh my God, how do I come up with a solution? And that's what I meant when I
You
said
have to be
you
on your
have to be
feet
able to come up
all
with a
the
solution.
time.
Yeah, like if you don't have a hair accessory on you, please like invent one, do whatever, but like we need it. It was literally like that. So
Okay.
yeah, that was stressful, but it's all right as long as you have a team that trusts you for it and doesn't give up on you. Then I
But
think it's
now I
all
think you're
good.
so used to it that you might be coming up with solutions on the spot, right? Like if there is any goof up.
Yeah, I mean it's been so long that yeah, I mean now we know to like we're well prepared. Something happens, we know that there's something
Right.
that can be done. So we always keep like backups for things in case things don't work last minute,
So you have
etc.
everything sorted now. So
Yeah.
that's a good thing. So if you goof up, then you
Yeah.
learn a lot of
Oh,
things. So coming to the next question, if there is something you would like to change about this industry, what would that be? I don't know why I suddenly sound like Amitabh Bachchan, but yeah.
yeah. What would that be? I would just think, I think people can be a little more kinder. I mean, I don't know. This is purely like my opinion, and it's completely unfiltered at this point. So I don't even know what I'm saying. But I just think that, there have been occasions where people kind of walk over you, they just don't think before they say something, zero filter. I don't know if it's because everybody's job, like in this industry, is so hectic that they don't have the time to be nice. I don't know what it is, but I just think that people can be a little nicer
Uh-huh.
and kinder. Especially when you have somebody who's genuinely reaching out to you, for something. It can be anything. So I just feel like sometimes, it just gets a little ruthless, and heartless. And I've been in situations like that, and I've also seen it with other people and how people are treated sometimes. And I just think that it's
Mhm.
not required. And we're all humans at the end of the day. And even if we goof up, everyone goofs up. You just need to know how to
Yeah.
deal better with situations. That's a bit
My God, you spoke my
crazy. Yeah.
mind. This was the same problem in my industry in architecture. Okay, so what are the hardships of styling that no one discusses? This is one question I wanted to ask you.
Hardships of styling. Wow, where do I begin? There's so many. I would say number one,
Uh-huh.
if you're not ready to work like beyond 7 hours a day, 8 hours a day, then please don't get into this industry because it's not for you. It is not for the faint-hearted. That's like my most favorite line. Because like it's just erratic hours, weird call times. Like I've had a call time of 2 a.m. for a shoot, and I was just like, wow, when do I sleep to wake up and arrive at 2?
Okay.
So it's yeah, 2 a.m. was my call time, and we wrapped up at like 11 a.m. So crazy. But I mean, so I think it's a part of like most people's job there, whether they're into films or fashion, because shoot hours are just bizarre.
Mhm.
So I would say you have to be really well prepared to kind of work those crazy hours. You can't be like a softie wanting to go home and sleep at 10 o'clock because that's not happening.
Uh-huh.
And then I would say that just being able to kind of wait on your payments for a very long time, that's also part of this job that no one kind of teaches you or gets you prepared for, which again you learn on the job.
Mhm.
So you can do a project today and get paid for it like next year sometimes. So if you kind of have to be like well aware of these things before you enter the
Okay.
industry. Yeah, it's crazy. And what else? Hardships. Actually, there were so many that I can't think of any right now. But I just think like it's a very very slow paced industry, as in terms of growth for a stylist. So you have to be very very patient to wait for your time, to wait to shine. Because I took like 2 years of trying, working for free like a dog. I was like doing everything I could till I got like my first paid project. So a lot of people who enter this industry today think like, oh wow, it's so glam, I want to style all these celebrities, travel the world with them, eat amazing food when they're on shoots. And I'm just like, that's not it. There are times, in fact most times I don't eat on shoots because like you just forget about it, it's the last thing on your head. So don't come with the notion that it's all easy, because it's not. Because when you're working, it's ridiculous,
Mhm.
it's crazy, it's hectic. But if you love your job, you're not going to look at it like that. But then like somebody has to prepare you for these things. Don't enter just seeing the Instagram post of a celebrity all dressed up, because that's the final result of
Yeah.
all that hard work that's gone into it. So yeah, you have to be extremely well aware of these things. And hardships would be just like I said, working hours. running around all over the city sourcing. It's crazy. Like there have been work days where I'm not shooting, when I'm prepping for a shoot, and I've worked for like 10 hours, and I've done like Andheri to Juhu to town to Bandra to Goregaon to Malad to like everywhere in a day. So you have to be ready for like the commute, which is also part of the madness.
Yeah.
But I think it's all fun when you look at it in the right way, But yeah, these are the few not so fun things maybe, but it's all part of the job.
Yeah, I think that's very important to know the back end of it as well, because all we see is
Yeah.
and then we don't know what is happening, right? And we feel, oh, this is a nice job, let's get into it. And when you get into it is when you realize, oh, it's not easy.
It's not.
Yeah, it's not for the
It's not. But like I said, you have to really love your job, and then you will like not look down upon it. You will just embrace it, I guess, and like just do it anyway.
Yeah. So there's this one line that I keep telling everybody, and this one of the people who had come on my podcast has said this, that the grass is greener on the other side because they have taken care of it, like they have tended to it. That is why it's green. Like if you don't tend to the grass, it's going to be brown. So
yeah. I just feel like this whole grass is greener on the other side. Like people are always so unhappy with what they have.
Yeah.
They always want what's on the other side, and that was also me actually. So I will tell you, like with experience, that people who think like that need to really kind of rethink. Because I mean, you get what you deserve, you get what's meant for you, and if something's meant for you, it will come to you. Just have faith and like put your energy out into the universe. So yeah, that's what I mean. Everyone's been made to think that, oh, that one has this and I don't have that, and like why am I not here, and why am I not getting this, and why am I not getting that, and you're just like kind of losing out on your time just thinking about what's on the other side. So you might as well make most of what you have and with your time, and just
yes, I shall keep that in mind. Well, which is your favorite personal style? Like what do you like? Any trend that you follow, or
I love comfort clothing. Like, I mean, I do like dressing up, but like I said, I love Indian wear. And if you would ask me to put in the effort to dress up, then I would love to wear a sari, because it's just like my favorite piece of clothing. I also love pantsuits. Like when I'm styling my girls, I'm just like, I always think of pantsuits, and I think it's getting a little too much now, but I can't get over it. But personally, I would love a sari. I just feel like it's the most versatile piece of clothing. You can do so much with it. You can make it modern. You can make it like traditional. You can make it boho. You can make it edgy. And there's just like a lot you can do with it. And I think that's why I kind of enjoy wearing it also, because I wear it so less, like not so often. You can only wear it to like weddings and stuff like that, right? So I really enjoy wearing saris. That's like my personal favorite. But on a day-to-day basis, like you just see me in joggers and like a ganji, and that's me. I just like to be comfortable and not look so, like look so well turned out all the time.
Yeah, I thought you wear, saris everywhere, but then today you're wearing a blazer, so okay.
Yeah, blazers with like pajamas. That's very chill.
The newest trend that Zoom has invented. I think it'll be called the Zoom trend soon. So there are always new trends coming up, and there are new fashion. I don't know what all keeps on coming. There's parallel pants, high waist pants. I keep on seeing them on Instagram. So which is your favorite trend that is there currently, and what do you do to keep up with these trends?
I don't keep up with trends. As in, see, like ideally, yes, of course, it's part of my job to keep a watch out on trends, but I don't necessarily follow them, whether it's like for my personal way of dressing or my, clients. But I mean, currently, there's a lot that's going on. I feel everything that happened in the 80s and the 90s, it's all come back, whether it's bell bottoms, whether it was crop tops, whether it's like velvet pantsuits, there's just everything that's coming back. And if I had to choose one thing currently that's really trending, I would pick like the whole jogger coordinated set. So basically like pair of joggers with like a jacket. I think it's so cool, so versatile again. You can actually take it from like day to night. But I don't really keep up with trends. I just wear what I like, what I'm comfortable with, because if you have to keep up with trends, then you're never going to just be at peace. It's crazy.
That's true. I think it keeps on changing every day. I think now draping is something new that has come up. Like people drape scarves as tops or wear tops in a way. There's something new coming up all the time. Like, and if we try it out here, done.
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole thing, right? With Instagram, it's like there's so much that's trending. You're seeing so much. You're just like, wow. But where am I going to wear all this? Firstly, we're in a pandemic, so it's so hard to kind of relate with what people are showing you online. But it's also great because they're so creative. Like you can literally make a top out of a scarf and wear it if you have the confidence and walk out of your house. Then great, you know.
I don't. I want clothes that
Yeah,
won't
not
fall
mine.
off, please. सब जगह से सिए हुए चाहिए.
Oh God, yeah.
Okay, so Shrija, is there any message that you would like to give someone who's just starting out as a stylist?
I would just say work really hard. Work with somebody you would really look up to, whose work you really like in terms of, you know, styling, of course. Get yourself a degree because it always helps. But please just don't do that and not do anything outside of that. Like keep yourself well informed. Read up. There's a lot on the internet. Always helps. If you don't have anyone to style yourself, you know, get some inspiration from out there and kind of do what you can with yourself first. Understand your personal style and then kind of build on that. And just be very, very, very patient because this is a very difficult industry to kind of break into and then, you know, get your break in a way, in a sense, you know. So I would just say that be extremely hardworking, assist as many stylists as you can, do as many internships, and just be creative. Keep doing stuff, keep collaborating with photographers, makeup artists, you know, create beautiful images, build on your portfolio, and just don't stop trying because you have to hustle, unfortunately, to kind of get your break. So yeah, that's really what I would say. And just keep feeding your brain. That's the most important one.
Yes. So as long as you know what you want to do and you're okay working these hours and you really love your job, then definitely get into it.
Yeah.
Coming to the final question of the podcast, which I mean, the podcast is all about unsettling because people ask you to settle down. And I'm going to join the bandwagon and ask you, what does the phrase being settled mean to you, beta?
Being settled.
Yeah.
You're sounding like one of those, you know, parents / aunties who ask you that with only one answer in their mind.
Yeah.
But unfortunately or fortunately, I don't know. But being settled for me is definitely not marriage.
Yeah.
If that's what most people are expecting as an answer. Thank you. I don't know. I think being settled is just being happy with, you know, in the moment. Like I mean, personally for me, I'm not a planner. I can't plan what I'm going to do 10 years down the line or even 5 years down the line. So I think if you find your happy space and your mind is in a positive space, that's being settled for me, you know. As long as I'm not like feeling uneasy or sort of, how do I put it, like not feeling incomplete, you know. So in the moment, if you're feeling right about what you're doing and where you are and you're in the right frame of mind and in the right time in your life, then I feel that's what is to be settled. And you know, it's not marriage or kids, you know, that's just part of life, and I guess that is up to each person.
Yeah.
But I don't look at things like that.
I'm
just like if you ask me right now if I feel settled, I would say yes, completely, you know. I'm in a good space, I would like to believe. So
yeah, agreed. Even I'm in a good space. I'm talking to you. I'm having so much fun. So for me right now, this is being settled.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, that is the end of the podcast. These were all the questions that I had for you. And it has been such an amazing conversation. I have so much new information in my head that I have to process right now. Hopefully, there are other people who want to be stylists and they're listening to this podcast and they have so much new information. So if you are not already following her, what are you doing? Please go to her Instagram profile. It's the same name. Please follow her and just go through her work. That's all I'm going to say.
Thank you.
Would you like to add anything? Would you like to add anything?
Sorry?
Would you like to add anything for the audience?
I would just ask them to follow you, you know, and listen to your work and follow your work. And I just feel like, you know, there are so many more people out there doing such an incredible job, you know. So I feel like what you're doing is great. You know, you might think my job is so cool and all of that, but I think what you're doing is amazing. You're getting to talk to so many people, and the fact that you have to kind of keep it interesting each time. That's insane. So yeah, I would say people please follow her as well.
Thank you. I forgot about myself.
And you can put your handle, you can insert your handle somewhere.
Yes,
wherever.
I'll insert both the handles so you can just follow. Please. Thank you. Thank you, Shrija. Thank you so much for taking time out of your life.
For having.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Hi! If you can hear this, that means you have reached the end of the episode. So like, share, subscribe, follow, stay tuned to Unsettling. And if you want to get in touch with me, you can always reach out to me on my Instagram page, amritasukumar_unsettling, or send me an email on podcast.unsettling.as@gmail.com. Hope to hear from you soon. Bye.